Welcome back. This is the 7th grade Sampler 5 Olympic Tabby Cat and Window Cat. While we've had occasion to read this, or some of my classes have, not everyone has. Not just that, but we haven't had a chance to go through it carefully. We've really just done the overview. So, there will be a writing assignment based on this, and this is intended to help you prepare for that. All right, let's take a look. First, if you want a read aloud version, you need only click on this yellow triangle, and that will bring you to the video to go with it, or it soon will. All right. First, we're taking the PSSAs, and preparing you and making you comfortable with it is of the utmost importance. So just like with CDTs, which look very similar to the state test, the PSSA, you'll see this screen here. Could you please move the green cat down to the continue button like this? Excellent. Slide 3. Now, I'd like you to sign your name, but first, if you could switch it over to highlighter and choose mustard yellow. And then if you could please write your name. My first name is Mr. Last name, Surface.
Mr. Surface.
Yes, indeed. So, we also have a little attention here, right? The reason adults go so crazy about you not having your phones or your Apple Watch or your Samsung or whatever is because this can happen. A $30,000 fine or $750. And what happens if you don't pay the fine? Oh boy, you can guess. So y'all, I'm going to put my red fish right here in the least dirty of the 3 fish bowls. Don't want to put them over there. Uh-oh. Excellent. Slide 5. All right, here are the test directions and ways you can flag different questions to come back to later. If you could just drag this unhappy button down to begin the test down here, please. Slide 6. When you're taking these tests, of course, the number one thing you'll use is the pointer, right? So if you could just put the red triangle right on top of that, and that can help you indicate that you think A is correct or D is correct, right? Slide 7. If you could drag this hashtag over to this drop-down menu, and notice how it gives you the different paragraphs and also the different questions that go with the paragraphs too. Very useful. Very, very useful. All right. Slide 8. Now, if you could drag this compass, this green compass over here, my favorite color, over here to this X. Whenever you know an answer is completely incorrect, you need only click the red X. That way your brain doesn't have to worry about it. So if you know that A and B are incorrect, for example, well, guess what? Boom, shakalaka, you can figure out that C and D, and you can kind of argue between those two in your brain, right? And your brain won't keep going back to A. Oh, yeah, it's wrong. Oh, yeah, it's wrong. Nope, there's a red X. You can forget about it. 9, the highlighting tool. You're going to take this race car and drag it over here to the highlighter, right? Different important parts of the question, different spelling mistakes or grammatical mistakes if that happens to be the case. Slide 10. Next, you've got the yellow Post-its. If you can drag this yellow block over here on slide 10 on top of this little Post-it here, and you can make Post-its like, oh, it's either B or C. I can't remember. I got to look up this. Or, oh, I got to check a different paragraph. Or I'll come back to this later. So if you need to take notes while you're going, it's kind of like digital scrap paper for you. Slide 11. And then finally, we use a card. We've also used a little blue thing, right, with the yellow line through it to help us kind of keep track from sentence to sentence, right? This here, it kind of more forms. We've looked at it more recently. It forms like a little skinny line, right? So I'd like you to put a little skinny line underneath this for me, please. Oh, and it's the color blue. So let's actually do the color blue. Blue, blue, blue. I'll have a blue line. There we are. Right? And then that blue line just kind of moves up and down as you read along. It's okay for questions, but boy, oh boy, is it great for text. Slide 12. So use the highlighter to help explore the essential question. So we've got some exploring to do. All right? First things first, look at these two poems, right? And they're boiled into something called a word cloud. Now, I know I say it often, but I think it's worth saying again. A word cloud basically says, oops, the more something, the more often a word appears, the bigger, oops, the bigger it is. I'm not crazy about that positioning there, so I'm going to put it down here. I can't win with this thing. Ooh, let's drag it over here. Here we are. No, it's not going to let me drag. Okay. Okay. A word cloud. The more often the word appears, the bigger it is. So if you could switch on your yellow highlighter, and I'd like you to highlight 4 giant words. What are some giant words that you see? Let's get 2 together. Number 1, there's a really obvious one. CAT. Act. Right? But we also see some other big words here. I'd like you to find 4 of them, and I'd like you to do that now. Go ahead.
My dad's a bad cook.
Okay. Someone didn't like dinner tonight. Okay, no more of that. All right, next thing, we're going to switch it over to blue, and I'd like you to find 4 medium sized words. What are some medium sized words? For instance, I see one, purr. But what are 4 others that you might find? Please take the time to do so now. Finally, I'd like you to find 4 little words. 4 words that probably aren't mentioned more than once, but are worth taking the time to look at now. Please do so now.
Dad, I don't see your words.
These are all words, buddy. Excellent. So now we've got our word cloud. We've previewed these poems. How does the setting impact the content of a poem or a story? Let's put a red dot next to all the different parts that have something to do or may have something to do with setting. So let's take a look. Fingers per cat. Well, cats can sometimes be outdoors, so perhaps that's it. I'll put a little red dot there. All right. Race. Oftentimes, races aren't conducted in houses, so I might put a red dot there. Right. If you could please find 2 other spots where you think something having to do with setting. Find 2 other parts that I might have something to do with setting. And simply because I can't help myself, I'm also going to give the cat a pupil. He's going to be looking at, he's going to be cross eyed. Find those other 2 dots.
Dad, I don't see your words. Just your words bad.
What? Okay. No more calling out, you silly geese. All right, y'all. So we now have on slide 13, we have our prompt that we'll be addressing in essay form. And the prompt is asking this. The setting is where and when the poem or story takes place. Explain why the setting is important in both poems. Use at least one example from each poem to support your explanation. Please take the time to drag those 2 red dots to the 2 most important words now.
Oh.
Obviously, maybe not both for setting, but definitely setting is what this is asking you to explain. Why is it so important in both poems? So let's get into it. Slide 14, we get a second look at the word cloud, and boom, here we are on 15. What we're going to do as we go along is we're going to keep track of something called, if you could switch over to text, we're going to keep track of something called adjectives. Adjectives describe nouns. Sometimes there are things called, and I'm going to put this in a different color here. Sometimes there are things called adverbs. Whoops. An adverb. And an adverb describes a verb or action. All right, so we're going to be highlighting those throughout this poem. Okay, so there are two adjectives kind of shoehorned in here in the middle. My, nope, possessive article. Nope, we're going to highlight Olympic is being used as an adjective, so we're going to highlight it. Tabby is being used as an adjective as well, right? And they're describing what noun? The cat. Miles, be still, buddy. Slide 16. Dancing leaves invite you. Wow. Dancing in this case is being used as an adjective. It's called a present participle. Repeat after me. Present participle.
Past participle.
Present participle.
Past participle.
And that takes a verb like dance, like to dance, right? I think bailar, right? And it turns it into an adjective. Dancing leaves, and then we have our verb invite you. Lightly you bounce. Well, bounce is our verb, so lightly is going to be our adverb. Down the wooden steps. Paw bat, the wind tossed. And notice how wind tossed is put together with this little end dash, right? So wind tossed is just one adjective there. Golden, birch, and bronze oak leaves. Race around the old oak tree. Faster, faster. The leaves dance higher. And that's something called a comparative adjective. Please repeat after me. Comparative adjective.
Comparative adjective.
Comparative adjective.
Comparative adjective.
You leap and dance higher, higher. Repeat after me. Comparative adjective. Comparative adjective. Slide 17. A dry oak leaf catches against the wooden fence. You pounce. Proudly. Notice how it ends with an ly, which means that is an adverb. Proudly you carry your bronze medal to me and race to capture a gold, right? Gold here, referring to gold medal. So that's a noun in this case, not a verb. Let's take a moment and think about this poem so far in terms of the prompt. Please move the two red dots. One's on the red barn. It's a little hard to find. Move it over there. The other one's a little bit below the red barn. Put that by the prompt. Then you've got two purple dots. Could you please put them up by the dry oak leaves up here? Excellent. And finally, if you could move this orange dot by the cat's tail. First thing we're going to do is reread the prompt and decide where our two red dots belong. What are the two most important words in that prompt? Let's reread it. The setting is where and when the poem or story takes place. Explain why the setting is important in both poems. Use at least one example from each poem to support your explanation. Please take a moment now to put the two red dots in the two most important words in the prompt. Excellent work. One of those red dots should definitely be on setting. Next, we've got the poem. Let's decide on two parts of the poem that might help us to address setting. A dry oak leaf catches against the wooden fence. You pounce, proudly you carry your bronze medal to me, and race to capture a gold. Take a moment now to drag these two purple dots to two parts of the poem that have something to do with setting. Excellent. Hopefully, you got something about it being outside, like with the oak, for instance. Finally, what's a part of this picture that you feel might help to answer this prompt? What's a part of this image here that you think might help to answer? Because there's a lot going on in that image, or you can't decide. Try putting it on one of the words from the word cloud over here. Please take the time to place your orange dot now. Yes, Miles.
Um, is the ocean that go up there?
Say one more time, bud.
Is the ocean that go up there?
The orange dot goes on a picture that helps you to answer the prompt over here, which says, why is the setting so important?
Oh, yes.
The setting's where a story takes place.
I know that.
Oh,
Daddy,
okay,
when I
all right,
was
all right.
your age, when I was your age, I don't know turn bigger than I worked at.
When you're my age, you'll be reading all sorts of different stuff. Who knows? Okay, here's our next poem, y'all. It's called Window Cat. So there's no adjectives here, but there's a wonderful picture. If you like, you can draw a little bit of lightning from the storm if you'd like. I'm going to try to draw it right now. I'd like you to try to do the same. I'm going to put a little lightning there. Oh, it almost got that cat. Such cold, wet winds, little cat. Somehow yet you yearn for that. Instead you purr and need here on my lap. Lovely, docile kitty cat. My fingers smooth your one-way fur. And I know you're thinking smooth is an adjective, right, Mr. Surface? In this case, it's a verb. I'm going to smooth it out. Your one-way fur, throatier still, your deep, rich purr. And notice here, deep, rich, throatier. Oh, another one. Repeat after me. Comparative adjective. Comparative adjective. All right. And it looks like one way is actually being used as an adjective here. Please take a moment to make your stanza look like mine.
Daddy, am I smarter than you?
Most likely. Slide 22. Let's break that one down a little bit. Oh, let's try that again. Let's break that one down a little bit. So, if you could drag your two red dots over to the prompt, please drag your two purple dots up by the top of the poem by such cold, wet winds. And please drag your orange dot between the word cloud and this cat by the window. First things first, please place your two red dots by the two most important words in the prompt. Please do so now. Next, please place these two purple dots next to the parts of the poem you believe help to answer that prompt. And then finally, where do you think this orange dot belongs? Does it belong somewhere in the picture that makes sense to you? Or maybe there's a word in the word cloud that's really singing out to you to help answer this prompt. Please take the time to place your orange dot on one of these two images here in a particular spot.
Daddy. Daddy.
Yes, Jude.
I bet your next special is probably gonna be about cats.
It very well may be. So, y'all, let's go ahead and keep getting our adjectives and adverbs. But then a bird, a flitting of red, past the glass, and you turn tiger, taut and trembling beneath my forgotten fingers. Your eyes, black, full moons, brimming from green globes, flash intent desire. Please make sure you have the same adjectives highlighted on slide 24. I do. grief struck. And they put those two, the noun and verb together to form an adjective. I see how readily, oh, we've got an adverb. You would prefer this world to me. The long, twitching crouch in shadowy grass. The yowling spring. Oh, yowl is a verb, but you add an ing and it becomes a present participle. Please repeat after Mr. Surface. Present participle.
Present participle.
Present participle.
Present participle.
The shower of feathers, slowing and fluttering, and complacent. Oh, mouse off the computer button. And notice that slowing and fluttering are both verbs with an ing added on the end, right? So those are also present participles. Repeat after me. Present participle.
Present participle.
Crunch of bone. How wrong was I to think you already home? So now, please make your slide look just like Mr. Surface's. All right. Please drag these two red dots over to the prompt now. Please drag these two purple dots up by the top of the stanza up here. And please drag this orange dot above this Van Gogh picture. It's by Van Gogh. Oh, I believe it's by Van Gogh. You know what? Let me go check that real quick.
Van Gogh made sunglasses.
The internet confirmed that it was Van Gogh. So let's Van get to it. First, please drag these two red dots to the two most important words in the prompt. Do so now. Next, please drag these two purple dots to two parts of the poem that help you explain how important setting is.
Found it.
And finally, where do you think this orange dot should go to help answer this prompt? All right, slide 28. Why do both poets most likely use first person point of view? Well, let's take a moment and read the question twice. Why do both poets most likely use the first person point of view? Find and box important words. Well, both definitely seems important, so I'm going to put a little box around both. I'm going to put it around point of view. Okay. Next, think about what it's asking. Why do both poets most likely use the first person point of view? Why do they use I instead of you or he, she? Next, reread the question with the possible answers. Both poets most likely use the first person point of view to explain the reasons for the cat's actions. I don't know if that's wrong or not, so I'm going to put a question mark next to it. To reveal how the speakers feel about the cats. That too feels quite right to me, so I'm going to put a question mark, come back to it. To describe the cat's playful, graceful movements. I feel like you could do that in any point of view, so I think that one's kind of clearly wrong, so I'm going to get rid of C. In D, I think that captures the second poem, but it doesn't capture both, and both was an important word that was highlighted. So I know since it's saying just one of them, I'm going to cross out D, which means I have to choose between A and B. Now, to explain the reason for the cat's actions or to reveal how the speakers feel about the cats. Well, I think if you're in first person, we're more likely to figure out how you feel than rather explaining something away, more analytical third person. So the correct answer is B.
I knew it.
Nice work.
I'm smarter than you.
Slide 29. Okay, all right. In both poems, what most likely excites the cats? There's that word both. All right, and the word excite seems important here too.
What is this? It's
It just tells you that you've worked on the slide. So, shh, hold on. You. A gold medal. B. Shadows in the grass. C. Attention from people. Or D. Sudden movements. Well, you don't get much attention. It's not the attention from the people. In fact, it's not people at all in the second poem that get the cat all hyped up, right? Gold medal, that's only the first poem. So I'm going to put an X through that. Shadows in the grass, one of the poems is set inside the house. So not really. Attention from people, no. The cat, in fact, ignores its owner in the second poem. Sudden movements, oh yeah, a bird in one and leaves in the other. D. Nice work, Jude. Nice work, class. Slide 30. All right, so we've got our prompt. The setting is where and when the poem or story takes place. Well, I know setting is an important word. I'm going to highlight that on slide 30 with yellow. Explain why the setting is important in both poems. And this is both poems boiled into this word cloud. Use at least one example from each. Please find, now that you've read both poems thoroughly, please find 5 words that you feel help to answer that prompt on the left that asks you to explain why the setting is important. Please take the time to do so now. Excellent. Slide 31. So, what I have here is an example answer, a paragraph that you could write to help address the prompt. Well, let's go ahead and highlight those important words in the prompt again. The setting, the setting is where and when the poem or story take place. Explain why the setting is important in both poems. Use at least one example from each poem to support your explanation. The setting is important in Window Cat. So setting and important are used right away, and it focuses on one poem, Window Cat, because the narrator realizes how quickly her pet would leave his current setting. Oh, they mentioned setting twice. They must be trying to get an A. The setting, the place where it takes place. It's not making. There we are. She is, let's switch to blue. She is appreciating the cat in their shared and cozy abode. Well, boy, I'm going to highlight those 2 adjectives now. Right? And I'm going to put a box around this because this certainly looks like a cozy home for the cat as well, this picture here. Then a bird flits by the window. Oh, there go a bird right there. It becomes obvious that the cat would go outside. Outside, to me, that sounds an awful lot like setting if it weren't for the titular window. Titular meaning relating to the title, which is Window Cat. Window tells you about the setting. So let's get that word titular. Grief struck, I see how readily you would prefer this world to me. And then they describe the outdoors, the long twitching crouch in the shadowy grass. Right? There is the shadowy grass right there. This moment shows the indifference the cat feels towards its owner. If the cat had looked to the owner after the bird event, then the cat might indicate a closer relationship. The setting shows the reader and the narrator that the cat does not care about domestic setting. That means inside a house, domestic. That contrasts the outdoors. Look at all the different ways that this writer mentions the setting in the poem and the important role it plays. Slide Before we go to slide 32, please make your slide look just like Mr. Surface's. Slide 32. So now, your thesis is to talk about the setting being important. Let's get to a different color. The setting being being important. Hold on, buddy. And then 3 reasons why, right? The one reason we got for Window Cat. Window, it shows you how the cat is indifferent to domesticity. But reasons number two, well, the next one would probably come from Olympic. And then the third would come from perhaps both or just window to talk about one last similarity. And then you would mention again how important the setting is. For the rest of class, you want to make sure that you've got your outline looking just like Mr. Surface is here. And then in slide 33, you get another look at the prompt, the word cloud, and it says we're really focusing on the TDA now. And on slide 34, here goes your TDA response. This is also in your packet should you be computerless today. Please make sure that you are writing and working up until you're dismissed by today's substitute. Thank you so much for doing a great job. I appreciate you, and I'll be seeing you really soon. So long.